Okay, so I got that sentence sorted out. I've combined, I think, two sentences here for you. So now what I have is WM also found that the way in which labor markets have shifted in each city has attracted women to sex work, as have immigration policies that also play a role in driving women into the sex industry. I'm again talking about immigration policies. Most laws are immigration laws. We're much more concerned with people coming and staying. We have, the world in general, I think, it holds true. In any event, your stuff about Havana more or less stands up. Note that when you talk about the 1990s, there's no apostrophe there. If you're the New York Times, they put an apostrophe there, but they're really the only ones. You can check it out in Garner. I also struck off this article as important, as unnecessary in this context. So now I'm on to Article 2. You didn't put in a separate section. This is something a lot of students do that hurts their writing, is not putting in sections. I require sections. You didn't put any in. I gave examples. You didn't make use of those examples. I assume if you're not giving me sections, you're not giving other instructors sections, and you don't want to be doing that because sections help the reader, make it easier for the reader. So do so. Use sections. You change the order around a little bit of the words, and you're doing things in a slightly different way. I put it back in the set form I like to see it in. Oliver's Big Sister is Watching You. Journal of Sex Research 2005. Journal of Sex Research has to be italicized. Can't believe I missed that. But one thing about it is that you are using lowercase J, S, and R for Journal of Sex Research. Is that how the journal's name is presented? I don't think it would be, so you have to capitalize that appropriately. Anyway, it is you put it out there as a question. I just combine it and say it is an ethnographic study that inquires which rules apply. So I put the ethnographic in with the question to have it flow a little bit better. And then you have a sense where you sort of talk about what the outcome of the study is in the social, viewed outside the social norm. I'm suggesting you try not to reveal the payoff too early. Save it for the end. Give the reader something to look forward to. The study itself was conducted by observing potential visitors. I'm not sure what that would look like. I mean, everyone's a potential visitor, I suppose, right? So I'm not sure, and you'd waste a lot of time studying people who don't end up visiting. Weren't they studying people who went to the... I mean, how do you know who's a potential visit? I just cannot wrap my head around that. Maybe I'm being dense. So you're talking about 5 different approaches a little later on here. I use the term lenses to give a way to sort of compartmentalize them. Social psychology, geology, gender studies, urban sociology, linked to the work of Goffman. Laughlin and Goffman's insights are used to analyze how, if possible, I put that in between M dashes to set it apart. Women are able to maintain private lives while their bodies are being used as a commodity in the, and you say, very public space of the red light district. I'm saying very is not, it's an unnecessary modifier in most every case. I've yet to see a sentence that isn't improved by taking very out of it. So just the public square. Either it's public or it's not. Furthermore, he uses Brent's research to evaluate the various styles of hunting. You have it in single quotes. For 1 or 2 words, I use italics. It's not just me. Check Garner on italicizing. If it's a longer phrase, like if it was hunting in order to demonstrate how societal views are views men, quotes. But if it's one or two words, italics. If you're using it in the sense of this is we're using hunting in a special sense, and only the first time you use it. That is an important note. Take out the two. So that is an important note as the article analyzes how women and men in the red light district interact, and then you need a cite there. As I'm going through, I'm capitalizing some of the districts that I missed. Again, I think I said at the beginning, at least in my when I returned the edits to you, that district could be uppercase, could be lowercase, but just be consistent. Uppercase seems to make more sense to me. So I shortened it up. Instead of the results of Alber's studies, say Alber's findings do not, and I kept much of what you said. And you introduced two methods. I say encounters division, furl in various ways, and Brunt's three methods of hunting: encirclement, direct approach, and natural approach. And that's a good place for an Oxford comma, right? It's three things: encirclement, comma, direct approach, comma, and natural approach were all employed. You should briefly explain each method and how they differ from one another. That's probably in a footnote. Perhaps surprisingly, that's my language there. Albers finds that the post-legalization period, prostitution had been more regulated than ever in Amsterdam. That is perhaps surprising. If you want to talk about the heavy-handedness of regulation, right? Because we no longer have laws that are getting people arrested, but they're introducing regulations that you have to do probably with things like public health efforts and so on. So in any event, examples of that can be seen in the city's brothels. I left most of that language alone. Video surveillance in the district removes all vestiges of privacy. So after that is the place where I would write about conclusions and social realities for this article. So since I'm gonna, let me have a look here what we got. Yeah, you wrote a lot on Article 3, and I ran out of time to keep editing, and we go over the length. Part of writing is about writing to the if you have a page range that you're given, you got to hit it. You can't go over it. In any event, Chapius, I guess is how it's pronounced. Again, the question lingers about whether or not you capitalize the D in district. That she describes, I think, is better than which. Look up Garner on that and which. It's an important one. And if you don't understand what Garner's saying on that, let me know. But generally it's going to be that without a comma, which with a comma, and more often that than which. You say Chapius conducted in-depth interviews. I'm asking with whom? That information will be useful to the reader. You may know, the reader may not, so you have to take that into account. She argues a complex policies shape the behavior of consumers in the district, as efforts by the government to draw in different crowds and spur tourism have led to gentrification of the areas. Maybe a little bit redundant there. So I'm going to take that out in this edit. It's implied, and made it easy for creative industry of market shops, galleries, and museums to thrive there. So then you're good for a little bit. I just had a couple of sentences that needed some cites. You use the contraction its for it is, which is the right way to use it, but we don't want to use contractions in higher level writing like this. So avoid contractions. You have a quote that has a contraction that, yes, you use, if you're doing a quote, then you just keep the quote the same. But if you're doing, if you're just writing in prose form, don't use contractions. Your page 9 citation, you have a G there, it's just a lone P. Later on in the article, you have a non-indented paragraph, it looks like, that starts with later on in the article. A, indent the paragraph, but B, you put the comma outside the quotation mark. Really important you understand that that comma belongs inside the quotation mark. Again, you want to check Garner for that. Holland's colonial past, that's a possessive. Holland. You have also comma which, I would just say that without a comma there. So in that case, you could take the comma out. Yeah, okay, so I see you've got a quote there, I get it now. So when you, here's the way to do it. Check what I said earlier this way. Whiteness and westernness, take that comma out entirely and use it as that without a comma. That way you don't have to mess around with putting the comma inside the quotes. The comma would belong inside the quotes, but it's a quote, so we don't like to have it in there as much, although it would belong there. But just use that without a comma and you're all set. So I've got to go start a new video because we're up to another 10 minutes.